Can you explain class variables and instance variables? What does static mean? This is a question from one of our students from, I think, from the mom. First of all, class variable is a static variable. A class variable is a static variable. When we create a static variable or when we need a static variable, fine. And there is also something called what does static means. Let me just share this here. So now the question here is asked by one of our student is what is this class variable and static mean? These are related, okay? Class variables and static. Class variables are nothing but the static variables, and these are the variables which is shared between all the objects of the class. See, whenever we write a class, in generally class is a template or a model for the objects. We create the objects from the classes, okay? Now, if you want to have a variable which is shared between all the objects, because whenever we write a class, okay, every object has its own copy of that variables in the class. That is what we call it as instance variables. If I give an example here, a live example here, for example, if you look into this two variables, private double radius, private string color, these are two variables which are private and which are not static, and hence they are not class variables, and they are the instance variables. Instance here, it means object. Whenever you create an object of this circle class, the object has these two variables and their values, okay? And if you create another object, the second object will have its own values for this variable. So in the sense, I have this circle class. Whenever I create circle, C1 is equal to new circle. So C1 now has two things. One is the radius, the other is the color. Okay, let's say the radius is 1.0 and the color is black, something like this. Whenever I create another circle object, circle C2 is equal to new circle, then C2 has two more, C2 also has a copy of these two variables. Okay, so let me create this here, circle C2 is equal to new circle of, let's say 2.0 comma red. So I'm creating a circle. So C2 has radius and it has color, which is 2.0 and red. Now where does radius and color, every object here has its own value, it has its own copy of the data. Okay, and these objects are called the instances of the classes, and hence these variables, the radius and the color, is called the instance variable of the class. Okay, because every object will have its own copy. Every object has its own copy. For example, if you see here, we have C1 and C2. Okay, so we have this. If you run through this, we have, you see, C1 has a different values and C2 has a different values. Fine. So you can see that C1 radius, what is area, and you can also see what is the C2 radius and the area. Now they are different. So every object has its own values, has its own variables. That is what we call it as an instance variables, which are related to object by object. Okay, that's the instance variable. Now coming to the static variable, these are also called class variables. Why? Because these variables are not copy to every object. It is common to all objects. Whatever the number of objects you have, it is only one copy for every object. It is only one copy for every object. Now we use this static variable as count variable, that whenever we create an object, we increment this count. Whenever we create an object, we increment the count. Now what is happening if you look into the main method, we create C1, the count is incremented. Now when we create C1, the count is 1. Okay, and then we create C2, the count is again incremented. Now at this point the count is 2. We see that the count is updated for every object creation, and it is not related to the object. We don't call it as with the object, and it is not related to the object, it is related to the class. As you see here, number of circles 1, here number of circles 2 after creating the second circle. If you create the third circle, if you increment there, number of circles is 3. Okay, so these variables are called the static variables, and hence they are also called the class variables. Fine. Apart from that, it is the other variables, we call it as an instance variables. So here radius and color are instance variable, and static count circle is a class variable or a static variable. Similarly, you have math.py. Math.py, the pi is also a final static variable, and it is also a class variable. Whichever the variable we access by the name of the class, that is a class variable, and it is also a static variable. I hope this clears your question. Mr. Hussein, is it clear? Okay, what does happen when we declare the radius and the color as a static? If you declare radius and color as a static, then you will have for every object you have the one radius. C1 will have the same radius and C2 will have the same radius. So yeah, whenever you change, if you create a third circle, all the circles will have the same radius. Yeah, static in general, it means constant, and we call them as a class variable also, and hence these are only one copy for all the objects, and basically it is used to count the number of objects created, or if you want to keep the count regardless of objects, any variable which is not related to the object and but related to the class, we keep them as a static. That hence they're also called class variables. Clear? You're welcome. Yes, we can also make the static functions. Static functions are class functions, and we can call them by using the name of the class. Like static variables, we can also have the static functions or static methods. Okay, fine. Now let's go back to our practical exercise here. We talk about in meeting number 4 about the lists, right? About the array list, fine, and the stacks and the queues. In our last meeting, also on Sunday, we had to talk about the stack and the queues. And at the same time, we started with meeting number 5, where we talk about the inheritance. But since this is the makeup lab session for the previous lab session, which was on last Thursday, we will take it from here, the array list. Okay, the array list, as we all know, that array list is similar to arrays, but has some differences. As array list has no fixed size, it can be expandable. Array list follows the the index. Okay, it can we can store any type of objects in the array list. Array list can be of type integers or can be strings. Fine. I have done a demo list class here. You can see on the screen a demo list class where I have created an array list of integers and initialize it here. And I call the fill function. I wrote the fill function where in which I ask the user to enter the list of integers. If it is not 0 or 0 to stop. Okay. Or you can say that or 0 to stop. Fine. While x is not 0, we add it and we increment this. Okay. And then I use this sort list function where I use the collections dot sort. We have seen that this collection is a collection class which work on a collection of values on the list. It has different methods. Collection has different methods. You can see this collection class collection dot. It has a set of methods. Fine. It has an add all to the list, binary search. It has checklist, map. Fine. It also has like index, fill, the collection, maximum of collection, minimum of collection, reverse the order, shuffle. It has swap, sort. It has fine. It comes from the util package java.util.collections. Fine. So I'm using this collections package to sort the list, to print the list. I'm just printing the list here. To find the maximum of list, to find the average of list. Similarly, you can find the minimum of list. So if I write a method to find the minimum of list, so it will be like public integer minimum, and this give me a return collections dot minimum of list 1. And this will return me the minimum of list. Okay, so basically I'm also calculating the average of the list here. Fine. So this is basically what is done here. Let me just take out this from the main method. Let me put a comment over here. And I have the demo list class, so demo list dl is equal to new demo list. So dl is a demo list. Now dl has different methods. Fine. I can call this dl dot fill method just to fill the list. Okay. This will fill the list. Fine. And it's called dl dot print just to print the list. Fine. Now let's run and see. Enter the list of integers or 0 to stop. Let's say 20, 10, 50, 30, and 0. Okay, so the list is 20, 10, 50, 30. And when we enter 0, it will stop. So it is a sentinel value here in the fill function where I take the x, we ask the user to enter the list and I check whether x is not 0. If it is not 0, I add that to the list and we simply repeat the process. We input again, we check until we enter 0. Once we enter 0, the loop will stop. Fine. So you can see it here now. The list, what we have is a list of numbers. Fine. We can also print the sorted list here. System.out.print as sorted list. Then I'll call dl dot sort list. white tag not allowed here. Is it white? Okay, just fine. We need to do this. We just need to print it and just sort it here. Dir dot sort list, and then print the list. Dir dot print. So enter the list. Say 20, 10, 30, 50, 5, 4, 3, 0. So it say that this is the list what I entered. The sorted list is this. Okay. Similarly, we can find the minimum of list, maximum of list from using these collection variables. Okay. We can iterate through the list by using the for loops. Like we have the for each loop, we can use the for each loop. In this case, every variable or every item of the list is given to x in every iteration. Every time the loop is repeated, x is given a value that is added to the s, and s divided by the size will give you the average. Okay. Similarly, has the sum of the list, then divided by list or size will have the average of the list. Similarly, minimum of the list, maximum of the list. Fine. These all can be done by using the array list. Basically, you will be tested in array list uh, uh, with some question. Like for example, you see on the screen the exercise. I hope you did this exercise at home. It says create an array of integer values with 90, 70. Create an integer list with the name it as list 1, which has the same integer value. So what we will do is first we create an integer array, and then we convert that array into list as by using arrays.as list of the name of the array. Okay, this will be converting into the list. Then print the list. Simply system.out.println will print the list, and print the list in reverse order. So we got to call collections.reverse to reverse the list. Collections.reverse to reverse the list. So collection.reverse will reverse the list, and you can print the list and see the reverse of the list. Similarly, maximum, minimum of the list can be found. Sum of the list can be found by using the for loop. Okay, you can shuffle the list to randomly have the list arranged. You can print the list again. Fine. So you can do a number of operations with the list. Okay, so and you will be tested in the exam with these kind of things. Yeah, they'll give some question and ask you to create the list, a list of students or list of circles, fine, and use that to print their values or to do some operations with the list. Fine. So this is about what we have basically in the meeting number 4. Apart from this, we also have something called stacks and the queues. Fine. We have seen this in our last meeting. What is the stack and what is the queue? Fine. So here also I wrote this my stack class. Fine. To have some operations of the class by using the list. Okay. So I create a list of objects here. Whatever type of object you can add here, list of, you can have a stack of circles, a stack of integers, a stack of a string, anything. I keep it in general as object. Okay, so I push the object to the list. Okay, as in a push operation. The peak operation will give me the top element. The top element is list size minus 1 will be the top element. Okay, if it is not empty, it will give me stack is empty. If it is empty, and pop operation will of course will remove the top element and will return the top element. Okay, and a string to a string just to print the stack. Fine. So I have implemented almost every function of the stack by using the array list. Fine. So you can look into the stack functions here. That what I have here, I have created S as a stack. My stack as new stack. I'm pushing the integers into it. Okay, and printing my stack. I call the pop and print the stack. I call the p and print the stack. Okay. Again, you can call the push Fine. So you can see that the stack, initially I have the stack of 10, 20, 30. So top element is 30. When I call pop, 30 is deleted. Now remaining 10 and 20. When I call peak, will show you the top element, which is 20. And the stack is this one. Again, if we call the push, for example, in this case, again, s dot push of, let's say, 45, then print the stack again after pushing. So now it is 45, the top of the stack. So this is the top of the stack. Fine. If you want to see the peak, just to make sure the top of the stack is 45, top of the stack is 45. Fine. Similarly, you can also implement the queue. You can also implement the queue. So in the queue, basically what we have to do is you need to delete the first item instead of deleting the last item. Okay, you need to delete the first item, that is the queue of 0 or the queue of 1. You need to delete. You want to display the first item in case of, okay, in queue you need to push it at the last, and when you delete at the first by using the queue operations. Fine. So this is about the stacks and the queues. Basically, you may be tested on stacks by using ArrayList, or you may be tested in exam by using ArrayList. How you use the ArrayList, that will be tested by giving some sample programs, or by giving some codes, or by giving some questions. Okay, so this is all what we have from meeting number 4 to discuss in this lab session. And inshallah, we'll have the coming Thursday, we'll have another lab session, inshallah, where we'll discuss more on it. Okay, so what I want you now after this to practice the array list. Okay, either you can practice from the slides, or you go to the activities of meeting number 4 and look into those activities, what you have related to the array list and related to the stack and the queue. Fine. So this is all what we have for you from this lab session. If you have any questions, please go ahead.